Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Karen Jacobsen.
Continuing toward the stage, across the back of the ballroom, and at the next table, turn right, recalculating, continuing toward the stage, through and around the table, don't trip over the chairs. Continuing, make a turn at the next intersection, turn right. At the next intersection, turn left, and continuing toward the stage, recalculating and up the stairs, onto the stage and across. At the Global Speakers Summit, you have reached your destination.
Now, who has been in a car with a GPS? Or a sat-nav? Very good. Or a global positioning device? Or any other kind of device that might get you to your destination? Very good. So, I meet a lot of people in my travels, and they want to tell me about their relationship with their GPS. And they do have one. Imagine you're on a road at night, alone, in the dark, it's raining, and you're lost. Well, people really like to think that that voice in the GPS is guiding them and is a friend to them. And when I meet people, they want to tell me their GPS stories. So I've had Janice call me from Los Angeles and say, I've just arrived at LAX and you're directing me around LA. And I was talking with Ryan and he said to me, last weekend you and I took the most fantastic trip. We went to my cousin's wedding in Milwaukee. And then there was the woman that I met at an event who said, you've got to come and meet the rest of my girlfriends because if it wasn't for you, we would still be lost in the mountains of Italy. But there is this one word people want to tell me about. This one word that they don't like. They really don't like this word. And that word is? That's right, recalculating. But I'm here to tell you that recalculating is good news. By the time you hear the word recalculating, you're already back on track, headed to your destination. Now, when we're in the car and we take a wrong turn and we're driving along and we hear the word recalculating, we take a few turns and before we know it, we're back on track, headed to our destination. But in life, when we take a wrong turn, we can wander around aimlessly on a back road, sometimes for years, if only we chose recalculating. The power of recalculating, being able to start again at any moment. Wouldn't it be great if there was a GPS for everyday life that would tell us where to go and what to do and give us directions all the time? Who would want one of those? And we all have one. I'm going to teach you how to be your very own GPS. Now, I have some directions for you. Are you ready? Please turn to the person next to you. Tell them how lucky they are to be sitting next to you today. Now I'm going to teach you how to be your very own GPS. Turn to your other neighbour and in your very best GPS voice, say, it's never too late to recalculate. Say, you're on the perfect path. Recalculating. Okay, we're going to learn the 5 directions for recalculating. Say, I'm ready to recalculate. Very good. Now, the first direction for recalculating is to notice you are off route. Noticing we are off route. The very first step. We cannot even begin to recalculate until we're willing to admit we are lost. I'm going to take you right back to the beginning. At the age, I grew up in a town called Mackay, near Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Where are my Aussies? Woo! Queensland, awesome. So I'm from North Queensland. We have sugar white sand, we have turquoise blue waters, and 9 out of the 10 most poisonous snakes in the world. It's paradise. At the age of 7, I was sitting in our family living room and I was watching television in our suburb of Mount Pleasant, and on came the most influential, most important person in the whole world, Olivia Newton-John. And when I saw her, my life changed. Here was this blonde Australian singer who'd moved to America, and everybody loved her. And I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I had direction. I was going to be a professional singer, and I was going to move to America. Now, speeding ahead a little bit further down the road, at 31 years of age, I was living in Sydney, Australia, in my own apartment. I had a fabulous life. I owned my own apartment right downtown. I was singing 5 nights a week in venues and in 5-star hotels, and you could not turn the radio or the television on in the 1990s in Australia without hearing my speaking or singing voice. I just released my first album, but I was living in the wrong country. You see, I'd had that dream ever since I was a little girl, that I was going to grow up and be a professional singer and move to America. But I'd stopped. Where are you off route? What dream have you had for your whole life that you gave up on? What aspect of your life and business is not going exactly how you would like it to go? Turn to the person next to you and say, "Notice you are off route." It's never too late to recalculate. It's never too late to recalculate. Recalculating, the second direction for recalculating is to be willing to change direction. Being willing, arguably the most challenging aspect of recalculating. We can notice we're off route. In fact, there are many occasions where I've noticed I'm off route for quite a long period of time, but it's being willing. Are you willing to do things differently to get where you want to go? So there I am, I'm in Sydney, I've decided I'm going to move to America. I start telling everybody I know that I'm moving to New York City. But I have this problem. You see, I've been dealing with chronic anxiety ever since I was small. And, you know, when I was a little girl and I had a big concert or a piano exam or a singing competition coming up, I would have such extreme abdominal pains that I would be home from school for a week at a time. And they would send me for every medical test that was invented then. And after every round of tests, the doctor would come out to my parents and he would say, "There is absolutely nothing wrong with your daughter. It's just nerves." Now, over time, I had learned how to manage this anxiety. It wasn't quite as debilitating as it was in the beginning. But here I am planning to make this move, and it still had me. I didn't have it. And if I was going to move to big, bad New York City, I needed to get this handled once and for all. And at that time, I was studying with an incredible vocal teacher, one of Australia's best singers, and her name is Kerry Bedell. And I learned that 50 rehearsals equaled the value of one performance. So I got out there. I was determined to overcome this once and for all. And when I got to New York, I performed any chance I got, for money, for no money, as a guest artist on somebody else's event or concert, and with my own concerts, anytime, anywhere, any place, I would get up and sing and perform. Because I wanted to be able to reduce that lag time between when I knew I was going to be performing and when I actually got on stage, so that there was no opportunity for all that anxiety to manifest. So I thought if I could be performance ready all the time, I could get that handled. What are your roadblocks? What is in your way? It may not be anxiety, maybe it's time, maybe it's money, maybe it's resources, perhaps it's negative or limited thinking. Being willing to change direction. Can you be willing? Can you allow yourself the space to do things in a totally different way to get you to your destination? Turn to the person next to you and say, be willing to change direction. It's never too late to recalculate. It's never too late to recalculate. Recalculating. So we have noticed that we are off route. We are willing to change direction. The third direction for recalculating is to clarify your destination. Maybe we aren't headed where we thought we were headed in the first place. Perhaps new information has come to light and our destination has shifted. Perhaps it's changed. I want you to know it's always okay to look back at your roadmap. So back in 2009, I was out in Australia for a while, and while I was there, I had a call from Dr. Don Lebler, and now he is the Dean of the Queensland Conservatorium of Music, and this was the college I graduated from. And Dr. Don called me and he said, Karen, we are really excited you're here, and while you're in Australia, we would love you to come and speak to our music students about everything that you've achieved. And I'm thinking, what would I have to offer those students? Why would he possibly want me to go and speak with them? I mean, all I've done is move to New York on my own and with a suitcase and establish a life there, and my voice has ended up in over 100 million GPS units, and I toured with the opening band for Cyndi Lauper across America and shared the stage with Norah Jones and Christopher Cross and released 7 albums on my own record label and sung the national anthem at all kinds of big sporting events and Madison Square Garden and 80,000 people at Giant Stadium. But I'm thinking, what on earth could I possibly say that would have any value to those students? I said, yes, okay, I'll come and I'll talk to the students. And I went down to the Gold Coast campus and I spent about an hour sharing my stories and my experiences with this group of music students, and they were hungry for what I had to tell them. And during that time, during that hour I spent with them, I realized I had a bigger purpose. That I had a message. I had something that could be of value to other people. Clarify your destination. Now, my whole life had been music. My entire life was my first love. It was all I ever thought I would want to do. And now, here I had a message. Like Dr. John DeMartini mentioned this morning. My inner GPS, my true self, was screaming at me that this is what I had to do. Clarify your destination. Turn to the person next to you and say, in your very best GPS voice, clarify your destination. Turn to your other neighbour and say, it's never too late to recalculate. Recalculating. Now you can, of course, follow along the 5 directions for recalculating on your special recalculating card, which is on your table. So the first direction for recalculating is to notice you are off route. Number 2, be willing to change direction. Number 3, we've clarified our destination. The 4th direction for recalculating is to embrace the steering wheel. Embrace the steering wheel. Come on, 10 and 2, you can do it. Embracing the steering wheel is about taking charge, taking control, moving from the passenger seat to the driver's seat and getting ready to go for it. So I'm driving in a car in New England with my friend Tom, and I'm pouring my heart out to him, and I'm telling him about my relationship with my boyfriend. And my boyfriend was rich and famous, and he lived in Beverly Hills, and we were having, I needed some guidance, and my friend Tom was giving me all this great advice. So my boyfriend would send me in the mail boxes of jackets and shoes and jewelry, and the second time I went to his house in Beverly Hills, he had bought a piano that I could play and write songs on when I visited him, and I really, really, really wanted this relationship to work, and I couldn't work out why I wasn't happy. So I was telling Tom all about my relationship with my boyfriend, and he was giving me all this fantastic advice on how I could fix the relationship. And at the end of those 3 days, he took me to the airport, I sent me off to JFK, and I flew out to LA to fix the relationship. And I walked into his beautiful home, and there was the piano, and I saw my boyfriend, and I burst into tears. And I realized I didn't want to fix the relationship. What I wanted was my friend Tom. So I broke up with my boyfriend, and I flew back to New York, and I arrived at JFK, and waiting there at Terminal 7 was my friend Tom. And we kissed for the first time. And we really embraced the steering wheel because we got married 4 months later. This is not how I thought it was supposed to look. My friend Tom, he's a production manager. He tours all over the world. His travel schedule makes our travel schedule look like... Give me a word, somebody. Recalculating, I like that word. His travel schedule is out of control. And I was thinking, how could that possibly work? And by the way, my life was supposed to look like this. I was supposed to live in Beverly Hills for somebody rich and famous who bought me fabulous gifts. But my inner GPS telling me with everything in me that I was supposed to marry my friend Tom and have his baby. Embrace the steering wheel when you know with everything in you what you're supposed to be doing. When your inner GPS is telling you which direction to go, don't ignore it. Listen to it. It will never steer you wrong. Turn to the person next to you and say, embrace the steering wheel. Turn to your other neighbour and say, it's never too late to recalculate. Recalculating. Recalculating. Calcul en cours. I got the thumbs up from Nabil. The 5 directions for recalculating: to notice you are off route, to be willing to change direction, to clarify your destination, to embrace the steering wheel. And the 5th and final direction for recalculating is to accelerate. To accelerate when you know what it is you're supposed to be doing and why you're supposed to be doing it. There's nothing more to do but to take action. One action at a time, one direction at a time. It could be as simple as a phone call. Now, we can recalculate in very simple little ways. All day, a meeting might be cancelled, recalculating. A flight might be cancelled, recalculating. And then there are those major recalculating moments in our lives. But when you know what you are doing is what you're supposed to be doing, the only thing left to do is to accelerate. My friend Paul Martin, he works for a major airline. Now, I would tell you that he works for American Airlines if they were paying me to tell you that he works for American Airlines, but they're not. So I'm going to just tell you that he works for a major airline. And Paul called me and he said, Karen, there is going to be this huge gala in New York City, and it is an Australian-American event. There'll be lots of celebrities and lots of VIPs there. And I'd love you and your husband to come and be my guests at my corporate table. So we arrived on the big night, and my friend Tom was in his tuxedo, and I was wearing my I'm going to meet lots of fabulous celebrities tonight dress. And we walked in at Cipriani on Wall Street, and the room was just stunning. And Paul saw me as soon as he came in, and he grabbed me and he said, Karen, come with me. And he dragged me across the ballroom where there was this big swarm of people. And in the middle there was a celebrity, and he pushed me through the whole group of people. And there I was, standing face to face with the most important and most influential person in the entire world, Olivia Newton-John. And I started to gush. And I said, I just want to acknowledge you for the impact you've had on my life. Every major decision I've made, from where I live to what I do, I've been so inspired by you, and I want to thank you. And she looked at me and she said, oh, that's such a lovely thing to say. What's your name? And I said, Karen Jacobsen. And she looked at me, and I kid you not, she said, oh, you're Karen Jacobsen? I love your CD. And in that moment, I realized I was okay, that I was on the perfect path, that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to be doing. And maybe, just maybe, I was enough. And I know you are too. Turn to the person next to you and say, you are enough.
Come back time and time again. Oh, one way or another, something comes along right there, and then meant to keeping us on, to keeping us on, to keeping us going on, to keeping us on, to keeping us on, to keeping us going on. When you're coming through the hardest of times, even when it's the end of the line, just when things couldn't get any worse, you'll find you live to see another day. Hey, 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 you live to see another day. Hey, 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 'cause you're okay. Recalculate, recalculate, recalculate. Oh, you're okay. Recalculate, recalculate, recalculate. Oh, you're okay. Recalculate, 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 recalculate.